45. Brown, 45. Hot, 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 hot.
You are listening to Any Given Sunday, Australia.
Yes, hello and welcome to the Any Given Sunday Australia podcast, the number one podcast in at least 3 households, 1 studio. American Football Australia head office. Spoke to Wade recently. He still loves us. We're number 1 in his studio, in his office. NFL Australia head office. Spoke to Charlotte. She's been over at the London game. It's been incredible for her for this week. Joining me, as always, in his massive London apartment in the middle of Melbourne, at Danny Webb, AGSAU. How are you, mate?
Oh, mate, I'm good. Big day on the tools, but ready to rock.
You look absolutely cherry ripe. And how can you not, mate? We have had an absolute crazy week 5 of football. We had the first Australian, Mitch Wisniewski. Try and say that quickly when you're trying to spit it out. Mitch Wisniewski became the first Australian to ever kick an NFL field goal after the 49ers kicker went down. So shout out to him and Pro Kick Australia. They all loved that over the socials. We had upsets everywhere. We go back to Friday night or Friday. Kirk threw for over 500 yards. We haven't seen teams throw for 500 in the whole season, and he's doing it in one game. We've got the Vikings, 5-0. We've got multiple blocked field goals today that got run back for touchdowns. We've got Commanders. This is a question I'm putting to you early. Are they the best offense in football, Mr. Danny Webb?
Short answer, yes. Yes, they are. They are, oh, man, if they pick up Devontae Adams in this potential trade that I've picked that's going to happen, when that does happen, they're going to be unstoppable.
Well, they are the highest scoring team by a mile at the moment. So easy to say that they are the best offense, and they are looking absolutely crisp, destroying the Cleveland Browns today. Enough that Deshaun Watson walked off the ground during a play, which doesn't look good for him. But of the games that did get played today, mate, what was your standout? What did you like the most?
Well, there was definitely a few to pick from, and this was actually quite tough. But bringing it back to me, because we all know the show's all about me, don't we? Did I curse Josh Allen?
Yes.
Sorry, Bills fans. But you just lost 23-20 to the Texans. Massive game for Diggs. He said all week that it wasn't a big game. Then he came out afterwards. He said, well, of course it was. It was the most emotional game that I've ever played in football. Came out, 6 receptions, 82 yards. Where was Josh Allen? The game, it was a tale of two halves, but the Texans led 20-3 early in the third. Then the Bills went on a little bit of a run, scored 17 straight points to tie the game with about 3.5 minutes remaining. Then the Texans had to punt away the ball to the Bills with like just over a minute left or just under a minute left in the game. Then Allen went 3 and out. Could have managed the clock slightly better, which Sean McDermott has taken the blame for. And then the Texans went back with under a minute left, and Fairbairn kicked a 59-yard game-winning field goal. Allen finished the game 9 for 30 with 131 yards. He's the first QB ever to throw under 30% for 30 or more passes in the history of the league.
Yuck.
I'm sorry, Bills fans. I'm sorry for picking him as my MVP favourite. You can't have a game like that and be the MVP.
Definitely hurts his chances, but it also hurts the Bills going down. And the Texans, you know, they're 4-1 now. Like they don't seem to, they're not lighting the world on fire, but they're getting wins. They're just ticking along. Yeah,
unfortunately, Nico Collins had a beautiful 67-yard touchdown and a very interesting celebration from CJ Stroud there. But yeah, exactly. Just looking real tough. But he actually pulled his hammy during that time, so he didn't get much time left on the field. And they haven't had Joe Mixon the whole season, really. So they're losing some players here, losing some weapons. So if they can keep getting the dubs, they're going to be a scary team once they're fully healthy.
Yeah, definitely. Another team that should be a little bit worried. So the game that I found, like you said, there was heaps to pick from, whether it was Kirk throwing for 500 or all the upsets, you know, the Seahawks going down to the Giants and like Giants dominating, not just beating them, dominating them in the end. And they finished with one of those blocked field goals returned for a touchdown. So shout out to the Giants. We said they were shit. Going on a little bit of a run. But the game I picked, the Cardinals getting the job done over the 49ers, 24-23. A comeback victory. It's the second time in 3 weeks that the 49ers have been run over late in the game, last quarter. San Fran didn't score in the second half. So Mitch Wishnowsky, which we said, kicks his field goal. That was just before halftime. Then they don't score again after that. The Cardinals dominated on the ground, 170-plus rushing yards and 2 interceptions of Brock Purdy. They weren't killing it in the air, but 170 rushing yards is a day out. The one thing that was a bit of a standout in the air, Michael Wilson, who has some New Zealand heritage. His mum was born in New Zealand, so we're going to claim him. 5 catches, 78 yards for the Cards, so shout out to him. A bit of a come-out game, or breakout game, which is good for him. But the 49ers, mate, are we getting a little bit worried? They're 2-3 now. They're third in the NFC West, right behind the Cards. So a huge divisional game as well. And of all the ratings that I found, they're only a 53% chance at the moment of actually making the playoffs.
You got to be nervous. You got to be nervous if you're the 49ers. You can't go from being in the Super Bowl and then everyone touting you as Super Bowl favourites to then starting 2-3. It's not the start of the season anyone wanted.
And it's more, in my eyes, it's the way they're losing and, obviously the players that they don't have at the moment. And I think it's official that you can say that CMC has been struck down with the Madden curse, which got broken last year. Was it Josh Allen last year, and then he kind of had a year out, he played well. This year, not so much. So the Madden curse is back, and CMC, is it going to be too late by the time he comes back? The way that they're going to have a good, a tough schedule with finishing obviously first in the NFC West last year. So no game's going to be an easy game for them going forward.
Absolutely not. And yeah, I guess the Madden curse just cursed his Achilles. Both of them.
Yeah, both of them. Definitely both of them. But it's obviously not doom and gloom. 2-3, they are third. The funny little stat that I found, they're 53% chance of making the playoffs. The Cards, who are officially above them because they now beat them, are also 2-3. They had under a 50% chance. How does that work?
Is that due to the strength of schedule moving forward? So we obviously had that stat at the very start of the season when we're doing all our preview episodes, but then since then more has come out. So the Cardinals actually have the 13th hardest schedule moving forward from this point, whereas the 49ers have the 6th hardest. So I don't know.
I love the little math. You can see your brain ticking over. Oh, what did you remember this? Oh, shit. Yeah, that goes in to say what I was saying. Like, they're going to have tough games no matter where they are. But, yeah. Another team, just going to quickly throw it on you that I'm a little bit worried about, is the 1-4 Bengals, mate. Joey B has been absolutely balling out. They're like the 4th or 5th highest offense as scoring-wise. But their defense is just leaking absolute points left, right, and centre. Obviously, was it 31-30 or 38-41 or something this week they went down. So 1-4 is a long way to come back from.
Yeah, it was this really tough loss in overtime to the Ravens this week. And Joey B's come out and just straight up called out his team and said this is not a playoff contending team.
Mm.
He looks absolutely shattered in his post-game interview.
I did get a message from Maxi Rampling saying how devastated he was this morning with that loss because, it was only 5 minutes to go or something like that. They were 2 scores up. So realistically, they should have got the job done there as well.
100%. And then, like you're saying, the defense is just leaking points and the offense isn't getting it done when they need to either. So it's almost a lose-lose.
Yeah, but 1-4 is tough to come back from. So I'm not sure how Joey B is going to be able to turn this around. An interesting story, an interesting stat to come out of yesterday's games. It's the longest day of football of all time. Because of the London game, they started at 9:30. Is it Eastern time? Where's New York? Eastern.
Yeah, Eastern.
So 9:30 Eastern time, right? Because of a weather delay in the Pittsburgh and Cowboys game, there was lightning in the area. So they stopped the game, or they didn't start the game for an extra 90 minutes. They actually walked off the field at 12:59 on Monday. So from 9:30 Sunday morning to 12:59 the next day, it's officially the longest day of football of all time. And I sat up and I actually watched a fair portion of it.
So it was almost the best day of all time for you.
Yeah.
Crazy that
Packers won, so great day.
Yeah, and in that final game as well, Dak getting that winning touchdown with 20 seconds left, that turned a snoozer of a game into something quite much more exciting.
Yeah, it was a very tense finish. TJ Watt racking up his 100th sack, the second fastest man to do that. Huge shout out to him. He was absolutely wrecking the Cowboys game. They were moving down the field pretty comfortably, but turnovers, too many turnovers. I think they had 2 or 3 interceptions, a couple of fumbles. Like they just couldn't hold on to the footy. But yeah, like you said, just managing to, because I think at one point it was like nearly 400 yards of offense for the Cowboys and 160 or something for the Steelers. So the time in possession was ridiculous in the Cowboys' favour, but they were just hanging on. They weren't quite putting them away, and they were actually down with 21 seconds to go. But Dak laying out for a touchdown. I'll say Tolbert, who was actually injured on the play before, and then he come back, takes a good catch inside the end zone to get the seal of the victory for the Cowboys. And like you said, it was a bit of a snoozer before then. It was a very defensive-heavy game in the wet, but it did kind of seal the fate for a couple of the divisions. And I've put up a little stat for you here, mate. The best division in the league at the moment is unsurprising, realistically. It's the NFC North, which each team is above 500, and total is 14-5. And there's actually a tie for 3 worst divisions in the league. The NFC West, AFC North, and the AFC East, all at 8-12. Is either side, like the Packers and the North being the best, or either of those 3 being the worst, a surprise for you?
I'll tell you what's not a surprise is the fact that you managed to weasel a Packers story into this episode, even though we said we weren't going to talk about them this week.
Yeah.
That's something that's not surprising.
Nah.
The fact that all of the NFC North doing so well is actually quite surprising, because you do have the Bears in there, which we all touted as probably wasn't going to do that well. No one picked the Vikings to go 5-0. And then Detroit and the Packers are probably sitting roughly where we thought they were going to anyway.
Yeah.
Moving to the other side, though, I think all 3 of the NFC West, AFC North, and East are all a surprise.
Yeah. Especially, like, the AFC North's pretty tight, but the rest of it, well, obviously the Bengals are down at 1-4, but the rest of them are all around the mark. Well, actually, Cleveland sucks too, so I think that's lopsided 2-2. But NFC West, like, that's coming into, the team that we thought were going back to the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl contenders last year, absolutely sucking. The Seahawks getting done by the Giants, like, it's a bit of a basket case over there.
Yeah, well, the Seahawks is the only team that's above 500, and they actually started quite strong. They were 3-0, if I remember correctly, and then have dropped to the Lions and now the Giants. The Lions, fair enough, tough game, but dropping the game to the Giants, not a good look, Seahawks.
Nah, terrible. You actually had a nice little stat there that you found about technically the Seahawks, but any team that plays Detroit.
Yeah, so every team that's played Detroit so far this year, obviously they had a bye, which is giving whichever team they would have faced a nice break, because every team that faces Detroit, they go on to lose the next game. So opening week, the Lions face the Rams. Following week, Rams lost to Arizona, 41-10, got absolutely pounced on. The next week, Bucks face the Lions. Following week, the Bucks go down on the Broncos, 26-7. Then the Lions face the Cardinals. Then the Cardinals lose to Washington, 42-14. And as I was just saying, the Lions beat the Seahawks pretty comfortably, and then the Seahawks go ahead and lose to the Giants. The Lions are cursing some teams out there.
And the teams they're getting spanked the week up. Like the closest game, 29-20, the Seahawks and the Giants, but the Giants dominated that game. Like at halftime, it was a nil contest. So they're not just losing; they're getting spanked. Every other margin's been 20 plus.
Yeah, which is absolutely crazy. Like, I don't know what the Lions are doing to these teams if they're banging them up. I guess you do have Aiden Hutchinson facing up against you, so anyone's going to be scared facing up against him. Also, just on that, early pick for Defensive Player of the Year, tick Aiden Hutchinson in my book.
Ooh, TJ Watt did dominate today's game and looked bloody good.
It's only because Aiden Hutchinson was on the bye week. Just wait.
All right. I'm going to stick on the TJ Watt. Maybe we should mark this. TJ Watt versus Aiden Hutchinson going forward. But yeah, it's definitely a contest. And that's because, like you said, they what was that quote last year from MZDZ? We chew your knees on the way down. So yeah, I think as teams who must be pretty banged up after they play the Lions in their tough brand of football, and then the week later it's really coming out to show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely getting dominated by whichever team they face.
All right, some things to look out for this coming week, Danny boy. The Devontae Adams chat. It's really going to start to ramp up as he's set to return, if not this week, the week after, from a hamstring injury. I know a lot of teams come out and said they're going to revisit it when they know closer to him being back, because obviously there's no point bringing him into your building when he's injured.
Yeah, of course. You're not going to pay a player to then sit on your bench if you don't have to. Most likely these trades are going to end up taking a lot of his cap hit, and the way that they're going to organise the deal is still up in the air, I guess. But there's no point getting him until he can play.
No. One team we kind of left out, and is, I think, right up there in contention. You've already said the Washington Commanders have got him, but I think the Jets are definitely still a chance, even though I reckon Lazard kind of gets pushed out, which is a very interesting play in that spot. The New Orleans Saints, they are also a definite chance with that Derek Carr connection.
Yeah, I can't believe I missed that out last week. It was actually in my notes that he was going to weasel his way back. But yeah, obviously just slipped past that one. With that Derek Carr connection, it's the only reason he went to the Raiders anyway. And they had one season and Carr was benched by the end of it anyway and didn't really get the opportunity to. The Saints are doing relatively well so far. I think they're 2-2. Could definitely use his help. Saints started really strong and then kind of have dipped since then. So definitely could use a little bit of an Adams lift.
Yeah, we'll find out. They're playing in the Monday night game this week against the Chiefs. So depending how they go there, they're obviously either going to be 3-2 or 2-3. So like you said, started off on fire when the first two. They've slid the last couple, but I would not be surprised. And they've got some cap room as well. So would not be surprised if they're a team that really throws their hat in the ring for the Devontae Adams trade. And a quick shout out to an Aussie big man, Adam Gotsis. He last week, not long after we set out our episode, he got elevated to the Colts 53-man roster. Obviously played at the Jags, got cut at the Jags earlier this year, picked up by the Colts, and last week was elevated. Played a pretty good game, had a tackle for loss in that game last week as well. So would have played today, but I'm not sure how he went. So I'm not going to comment too much about that. But yeah, shout out to him making the Colts roster and getting another crack, because he is quite a good defensive back. Moving on to tomorrow or today's game, whenever you're listening. The 2-2 Saints are playing at the 4-0 Chiefs. The Chiefs with a 5.5 point head start. Before we get into it, 5.5 points, mate. That feels real high for me.
Yeah, especially with how banged up the Chiefs are. You're going in there with not very many passing options and a backup running back. And you're saying you're going to put 6 points on them, 2 field goals or 1 touchdown. But if they're not getting up the field, it's probably going to be 2 field goals. I think that's too much.
It feels like a massive line for me, but the punters don't think so. 61% of the money is with the Chiefs at $1.43. Again, that just feels... The Saints had a rough couple of weeks, but they're a pretty solid side. And, Derek Carr, Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, they've been pretty lights out before then.
Yeah, I guess the fact that you're going into Arrowhead is one of the loudest stadiums in the whole league to play in. Mahomes loves playing at home, hates to drop a game at home. There's a little bit of that in it, I guess. And we always said that we're going to back the Chiefs until they give us a reason not to. The fact they've only got half a roster essentially is kind of leaning on that side, that they've probably already given us a reason not to, but they still haven't lost yet.
I was looking at some stats from these guys, mainly the Chiefs. So how are they going to overcome another person on IR. So their leading rusher, Pacheco, on IR. Rashid Rice, and I still don't know if they've actually diagnosed what he's got, as in wrong with his knee, but he's on IR. So as far as the Chiefs' passing game, Rashid Rice has had, I'll find it here, 24 receptions, 288 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The next best is the struggling Travis Kelce at 15, 158 and no touchdowns. Even Xavier Worthy, who's been pretty useful, he's only had 9 receptions for 154 yards. So I'm not sure where they're going to go as far as their wide receiver stock, mate. So how do they overcome this?
Honestly, it will probably come down to some Andy Reid magic and the fact you got Patrick Mahomes suiting up. Apart from that, it is going to be super tough. Like, as you said, some players to watch. You got to watch Alvin Kamara with the way he's been playing. He will probably tear up this defense, which I was touting all year at the start of the season. The Chiefs defense was like, the thing that kept them in the games for the majority of last season. And it's what they're going to have to lean on again for this. But yes, they've been winning a lot of games, but the defense has been a little bit more leaky than what it was previously. Kansas City are probably going to have to rely on Juju Smith-Schuster, realistically, as your wide receiver threat. Are you feeling comfortable if that's who you got and who you're passing to?
Nah, not after the year he had last year where he was dropping everything. So I think obviously Travis Kelce is going to have a big role. I reckon Xavier Worthy probably has to step up a little bit as well. But yeah, just going through Noah Gray, maybe he's had a few targets. I think he's a tight end as well. But yeah, even the running back stocks, Pacheco hasn't played for 2 weeks. Hasn't played the last 2 games, I reckon. Still the leading rusher. 34 rushes for 135 yards and a touchdown. Carson Steele, who's the rookie, he's had 28 rushes for 105 yards. And Kareem Hunt, who they've just brought in as well, he's gone 14 rushes for 69. But otherwise, it's been Patrick Mahomes. He's had 17 rushes for 61 yards himself. So I'm just not sure it's going to be, if they do get over the line here, I think it's going to be a Patrick Mahomes masterclass to be able to weave his way through and actually find some options. Or, on the other hand, it gives other guys opportunities, doesn't it? Like we're going to be able to see Xavier Worthy, what he's really like. Travis Kelce's going to get a lot more targets, so I'd be definitely punting on him for receptions. Your favourite little bet. So yeah, it's going to be I don't see why 61% of people are on him at $1.43. It blows my mind a little bit at the moment.
Oh mate, it's absolutely crazy. It's going to be the biggest test, I think, for the Chiefs. If they can overcome Rice's injury and still get a win, well, hand him the trophy now. Hand him the Super Bowl now. Because then, realistically, you're unstoppable, right? You're rocking up with a team that's that banged up against, like we said, the Saints had started really strong. Yes, they've dropped a couple of games, but their offense is looking very dominant. If the Chiefs can get it done against this Saints team, unstoppable.
Yeah, I agree. We haven't got a multi for this game yet. There was a few things we wanted to see. So we'll have it out early in the morning for everyone to follow on the Any Given Sunday AU feed. But we don't want to lay our chickens before they hatch. Don't want to hatch our chickens before they lay. Quick shout out to you. You almost picked the Jags over the Colts, but you picked the Colts over the Jags, and the Jags actually got their first win for the season. So your Any Given Sunday bet did miss out. Just before we wrap things up, because it's been a pretty quick episode, mate, I just want to throw a little bit at you in regards to the playoff picture. Very, very early playoff picture. But one team that surprised me at this point of the year that is currently in the playoffs, it's on the AFC side. They're currently sitting 6th, and it's the Denver Broncos. They are 6th in the AFC and are currently on their way to the playoffs. We said they were a basket case. Me, in particular, said they were a basket case. Does that surprise you at all?
I actually love this, the fact that they've made it. Bo Nix, we said, was going to be one to watch, and you can see that he was very much annoyed at Sean Payton Peyton.
Yep.
Their coach, you can see him screaming at him at the sideline, just obviously not happy with the play calling and how the game was going. But yeah, still got the job done against the Raiders. They're winning games. They're winning
won
games.
3 in a row, I'm pretty sure.
They're winning games. And also, you picked them to be the worst team. So the fact that they're not, man, that feels good.
Yeah. And on the other side, the NFC side, more the teams that are currently missing out. So we've got, obviously, the Vikings at number 1, the Commanders at number 2, and Falcons number 3. We wouldn't have picked that for sure. But some of the teams that are currently outside the bubble. So my Packers are outside. They're on the edge. Your Eagles sitting at 10th. The Saints are currently sitting 11th, but they've obviously got tomorrow. If they win, they go right up into 6th. The 49ers are sitting 14th out of 16. And like I said, they've still got a 53% chance. But at this early stage, all they've got behind them is the Rams, who are struggling, and the Panthers, who are the Panthers. So, yeah, on that side, I think there's a bit to play out, but some big teams that look like they're going to miss out.
Yeah, this is absolutely huge. And if we don't see some of these teams improve, throw all our predictions out the window. Like, we have absolutely failed. But to see the Packers, Eagles, Saints, and 49ers all out of the top 7 at this current stage, mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing, and never would have thought to see it happen. Mind you, the Eagles are 1 game behind because they had their bye this week, which would make a big difference because the teams like the Cowboys and the Bucks are only 1 game ahead of them. So as long as the Eagles win, they're slotting just above them as well. And your Packers, sit right on that bubble point as well. It is wild to see the Vikings right at the top and Commanders number 2. I said give the Commanders a year to settle, and they're probably going to be competitive. They've just gone out there and proved everyone wrong. Shout out Leggy, my number 1 Commanders fan, because they're getting it done. And he texts me every week. He's like, "How about these Commanders?
How about them? And
We're winning it again. And not only that, they're one of the funnest teams to watch this year.
Yeah, 100%. Although Daniel's had a bit of a down day. I think he had 10 passes that he actually didn't hit, which is a bit quiet for him.
Did they get the dub?
They did. I think it was still, I don't have it in front of me, but it was, I want to say off the top of my head, 18 from 28 and still had over 300. So, yeah, electric. They are the Texans of last year. Like, I think everyone's a little bit, you can't hate them at the moment. Like, they're the Lions as well. Everyone's like, you know what? We want to see the Commanders go well. They have a shit stadium. They've had a shit owner for so long. Josh Hart's come in and really started to turn shit around. They're a little bit of a darling at the moment.
Yeah, so he's 14 from 25 and still hit 238 yards. He had 1 touchdown and 1 interception.
That was pretty close.
Got sacked 3 times, but that's not his fault. That's the O-line.
Yeah, come on, boys. Got to pick your game up.
He also rushed for 82 yards, though. So all those yards that he missed passing, he got done on his feet anyway.
Yeah. All right, just to finish off, I do have a little bit of a out there kind of comment. You like to throw them, but I want to throw them. After watching the last 2 weeks and the likes of, yourself, your team, the Commanders doing so well, I think the Cowboys missed the playoffs.
With the way that they played today, like barely getting the job done against the Steelers, and the lads that I was watching with today literally weren't the biggest NFL fans, but one of them said, "Who is this Steelers QB? He is rubbish." I was like, that's Justin Fields. The Bears didn't even want him. The fact that they could only just get the job done, I know the Steelers defense are elite, and I'm not ever going to shit on that. They are great. But, really thought the Cowboys were going to win a little bit easier than that, and they're not. They're just struggling through every single game. Every single win that they're playing looks like a struggle. Dak hasn't looked comfortable once yet this season. So I'm on board with the fact that the Cowboys potentially might not make it this season.
Yeah, I'm saying it, putting it out there. Like, there's a little bit of tension between him and CeeDee Lamb on the bench after a interception in the end zone as well, like not just the midfield one, in the end zone where CeeDee Lamb turned around, didn't even know the ball was coming to him. So a few words exchanged, Dak just head in hands kind of. Yeah, it was very interesting to watch. It made a very dull game a bit more interesting when you're seeing these two at each other on the sidelines. So, yeah, that's my prediction after week 5, the Cowboys missing.
I've got one thrown straight back to you.
Ooh.
So you've just hit me with the playoff picture. Give me your Super Bowl matchup after week 5.
Well, if we're going by the way teams are playing right now, hard to say. I reckon, I stayed up and watched the London game, and I've been given the Vikings a lot of credit. They won dirty this morning. Like, they got out to an early lead, and the Jets pegged them back. They got an interception late to seal it. It was more the defense. They had a return, like a touchdown, pick 6. So it was more the defense that won today instead of the offense getting the job done. So I find it hard to say that those guys and our commanders that we're jumping on board are going to be playing the NFC Championship game. It's hard to not see those two guys in it. Like, they're both playing above expectations at the moment. So I don't know who wins that game, but I reckon out of those two, one of those two, at right now, they make it to the Super Bowl. The other side, the Chiefs are going to be in the AFC Championship. It's just who finally steps up. I reckon the Ravens are probably, it's their year, the way they've been playing, that two-headed dragon, two-headed dog, two-headed whatever you want to call it. Henry had a quiet start. It wasn't until he broke out a 50-yard rush right in the overtime that he actually got up over the overs, which I picked him for today, thank God. But yeah, Lamar throwing touchdowns after falling over and dropping the ball, like, it just feels like it's a little bit their year. So I'm not going to say who's going to play in the Super Bowl, but I'm picking the NFC Championship right now is, who did I say? Vikings, Commanders, and the AFC Chiefs and the Ravens. So out of those 4 at this very stage.
I like it. I think the Ravens are going to have to get past the Texans, though, with the way they've been playing. But I think they would actually get the job done in their playoff picture. So, yeah, I'd have probably the exact same for you as you. It's just who wins out of those two moving forward to actually hit the Super Bowl. That's anyone's guess.
Well, like I said, I want to see how this IR picture plays out for the Chiefs, because injuries might be the only way we defeat them at the moment. But yeah, you're right. I did kind of forget about the Texans, but they've only just been getting the job done where the Ravens have been bullying people. And, like, the Bengals today couldn't have played any better, especially offensively. Like, they dominated, but still couldn't get the job done. So, yeah, interesting a third of the way through the season, and we still don't know what the hell's going to happen, which is awesome. So, love it, mate. Enjoy Monday Night Football.
Oh, mate, cannot wait. Let's see the Saints get this done.
Ooh, you want to see him topple? I don't mind it. Don't hate it. So, all right, mate. I will see you Thursday for Week 6 preview.
Let's go football.